Hello, everyone. Welcome to our world today, the humanist perspective, a discussion when we talk about the news in a different way. Today, we have 45 minutes of very interesting news, to say the least. First of all, we are going to talk about the assassination of an healthcare CEO company in New York. And then we're going to talk about France's government being blocked and resign, I guess. And then we'll finish with Syria and the fact that Bashar al-Assad is now in Russia and what has been going on that is new in this region. So let's start right away. Probably the most shocking news of the past week was that the CEO of a healthcare company was assassinated, and it asked a lot of questions about around the healthcare system. And from the latest development, now that we knew who the person who did this is, it seems like the people is very divided by this case. Some see him as a hero, and some see him as, well, not a hero, but it was really surprising news, and I kind of want to go back to how it first felt when we heard the news, and I'd like Nadia to really tell us like how it was around New York when you first heard the news of this, and what you feel the healing is now that we have a new development. You're muted.
Thank you. When I first heard of that, I was shocked because I felt like now everyone can just look up the list of CEOs of companies and policies that they don't like and hire a gunman and uh, murder them. And it felt really cruel to, instead of having someone talk or a discussion about why or like what would be the reason to do that, they just point blank shot them. And another thing is like the safety issue behind that, because although it was a very trained assassin with a silent gun, it is still dangerous. There were people around. There was a cab driver who saw the whole thing, and it was in the middle of New York in Hilton, and that's scary to think that in broad daylight, someone could be going into an investors conference and be shot in the back of their head. So, regardless of what the United Healthcare CEO stood for, it was definitely something that was heinous. Um, we all have issues in healthcare in the US because of the policies that healthcare has established. But that doesn't mean that you just kill someone. And I get it. There's been too many stories of people getting denied their claims, not getting coverage because, healthcare insurance failed them. And it doesn't reach as loud as you scream, it doesn't reach the room because you're just saying your complaints. And this definitely brought the topic to the surface, but it's not the way to do it at all. So that's my initial feeling to that.
Yeah. And how do you feel about the fact that one who was the source of this attack was like he was an engineer from a good family, and people already like supported him before seeing his face. And I think probably the fact that they saw his family, his way of life, the way he expressed in his letter that that the healthcare system was corrupted and it was just like money grabbing, and the fact that sadly he is a beautiful man by society's standards. How do you feel that it has affected people seeing you as a hero?
Mm. It shows me the healing that we have to do because, regardless of the beautiful mind, the wonderful family, his right to defend himself in terms of the injustice we felt in our healthcare, you cannot, you can't do that. And there's a saying like, the ends justify the means. And that CEO might have killed millions because of their policies and how they've not provided their full coverage to people. But in the same sense, one is the same as many. Like you kill one person, you're killing, because we're all one. So it doesn't justify it at all. And I'm glad he brought up the injustice, but you could have shot him in the arm, in the shoulder, or something. But instead, you chose to murder someone. So, and I'm not sure if you saw it in the news, but in his the shell cases of the bullet, it said deny, defend, and depose. And he was indicating how the insurance company would deny your claim, delay your um, claim, and just flat out not provide for you. So I get he's trying to send a message along with the monopoly money that he had put in Central Park for the police to find, which is indicating anti capitalism, which United Healthcare has definitely become a huge monopoly. But still, this killer is alleged. Everywhere I'm finding headlines that keep saying alleged. So it's not as conclusive as I would like to be. Maybe um, new news will come out, but yeah, it doesn't justify you killing someone.
Any feeling on that team?
Yeah, I feel unsafe. Like you could be my hero, but I feel unsafe. You don't
Right,
get to kill someone.
right.
Mm,
I think, yeah, it was clear in the way you portrayed it at first.
mhm,
But like, do you trust safety?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mm,
and
So,
I stayed at a Hilton like a couple days before this happened. So I was just like,
you're a little bit shook.
yeah, it was like,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. That seems natural. So
mhm,
I don't think like it's a huge feeling of feeling unsafe. You're just like shook. So you can just give compassion to yourself in that space.
Mm.
Yeah. Sage.
mm. Yeah, this situation. Um, well, I like what Nadia said about like bringing the issue up, but we can only really make progress if we heal ourselves in this place of being where we feel hurt, and it's an inner process first, and but it's bringing up kind of the outer problem, but the problem is within, and it's within. People feel um, like they don't have power, and they feel like their lives aren't seen as important, right? And that's actually, I mean, ultimately, that's an illusion, right? Like, and you will get the right care, you will be provided for, things will happen favorably, like you'll have a favorable experience if you love yourself there. And yeah, and you're not powerless, and we're not powerless against the forces of like it's ego basic. It's not these people. See, that's where people get confused. It's not the CEO, it's not the people. I mean, they might be choosing like ego in some places, like greed, or things like that, but it's like it's not really them. We all need to heal it within us, and just look to ways to build our own power. And I don't know what the ultimate solution will be, but like another alternative too is you know, build political power, like compassionately share the message of how people deserve to have health care, and genuinely try to find the best way to do that, and compassionately advance that argument. And also another way is to, if people who do actually value human life and actually value love, if they get a lot of money, and therefore they have more influence in society and more power, because they can use their money to create organizations that serve actually serve people, that actually serve love, or you could say serve God, then that would be the ultimate solution. Because right now, what we have are these companies where they don't, there might be people in there who do care about people's health. I mean, there certainly are, right? And it's not just like they're not just here to take people's money, but it seems like the overall intention is that they want to, they want to make as much money as possible. And when they do that, when they have that intention, it's going to manifest as sometimes they try to cut people off, right? From they don't, the money required to pay for their healthcare expenses. So that's a huge problem in society. I think it's subjectively a huge problem. And it's also tied up in how, for some reason, healthcare costs are huge in the US compared to other countries. In other countries, the actual cost of healthcare is like lower, like sometimes by like half. So that's interesting too, which may be indicative of how the system inflates everything so that you can charge more and stuff like that. So, like just staying in the hospital itself, like physically being there, is sometimes more expensive than like the procedure itself. So there's a lot of areas where we have like massive, like that's a huge issue. But when people they feel so angry and hateful, and they're saying stuff like terrible about it, like that they deserve it, or like, eat the rich or something like that. It just shows an area where, because you can, if you scroll through any social media besides X, formerly known as Twitter, you'll see a lot of that. It's just pure. It's not good. It's not actually righteous, right? It's ego as well, in the form of hatred, and powerlessness. So not good. And we have to pursue other avenues, even though it might be tempting to try to like pursue some short-term, fast-seeming solution to this. And yeah, that's what I feel about it.
Granville.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's so much going on here. Like the fact that somebody gets shot under these circumstances feels like a very extreme response to adversity under these circumstances. So almost a mental health, wellness, balance in like an imbalance in some sort, because I just kind of feel like it speaks to what Nadia was talking about in terms of that end justifying the means. This just feels far too extreme to in response to this problem. But I also don't understand the full context of his problem. Because, again, little things stack up to the point where somebody may feel that they have no other avenue. But then when you now look at this action, has it actually created real change or not? Yes, it's topical because it's in the news, and you are going to have the dissenters and you're going to have the people that are supportive, but what change has it created? Then my other concern is the value of healthcare in the US that Sage was speaking to, in terms of certain things just almost escalating out of hand in terms of price points and things like that. Because in South Africa, we have a very regulatory system when it comes to your scale of benefits from medical aid schemes and health providers and the rates at which they can charge. So they cannot kind of price themselves too crazily out of the market because, one, medical aid schemes won't pay for that. Two, if it does happen, it erodes your medical aid savings because there are savings components to medical aid schemes that certain things are paid out of. And so there's a greater level of regulation. And I don't know that is a process that happens in the US, but I think that it's quite necessary because healthcare shouldn't be such a competitive market from a health provider point of view. I think that's where the escalation is happening. And I mean, it speaks to something that happened a few months ago when we spoke to the cost of medicine for women giving birth and medical schemes choosing which ones to pay for, and almost women having to choose which ones are more cost effective, and then the government making a decision around not paying for certain things past a certain point in the birthing process and all of those kind of things. So I kind of feel like the regulation and the honoring of citizens' health is the core healing here. The circumstances and what has actually happened just probably highlights it more. So yes, potentially extreme, but maybe he served the purpose to drive a form of regulation starting to take shape.
I would agree that there may be some sense of serving a purpose, but through pain, like teaching through pain, which is not necessary. But um, well, I think as humanists we can say that um, God or love or whatever uses any means to come to a certain space, and if that means it comes from that, well, then it comes from that. But I would say like it's not really effective in serving a purpose. It's clear that healthcare should be like a national you know type of care. And Obama tried to do that, but he was limited because, any federal agency or agency to have freedom and private companies involved will tell you that the state intervenes too much, if there is too much power in the space, because this is the challenge of the US right now, which makes it very different from South Africa or France. It's funny because I had an MRI this morning and I paid like $120, like $120, and that's the most expensive procedure I've had since I was 15. So, and I thought about the US. Yeah, it's relatively very cheap, but for me it was expensive in terms of social security because usually I pay like 20 euros, right? But there is something to be said about, You know how I like to make historical parallels? This assassination attempt, I cannot um, remove from my head that it looks like the assassination that started World War One, or like the JFK assassination, JFK and his brother a few years afterwards. And it's never resulted anything. It's never resulted anything. Provoked a war. And it's never changed really the opinion of people, only polarized them more. And I think we are pretty much knee deep in this right now. And we've said it many times, but the powerlessness that Sage was talking about is so present here. And this powerlessness is fueling extreme behaviors because people think that one or the other of something is going to be their savior. It cannot be extreme like that if people are not desperate for a solution while feeling powerless, and that's why people are seeing him as a hero, even though like life was attempted and taken. And I just don't know. I cannot resonate with that, but I cannot put my place in the shoes of someone that is so desperate that they would come to these means, or so desensitized from the powerlessness and from the feeling that someone, a political person or a CEO or a hero figure must come and save them, that they would just accept this as it is, like, oh, someone got shot, like, and you have an opinion on this, positive or negative, like, someone got shot here. And yeah, so powerlessness can be, yeah, very, very, a very potent, like, I guess, arm of fear, I would say. That's just what I wanted to say. And I think that would be the conclusion of what I had to say on it, because I mean, we've talked about it many times, and it's just a show, an extreme show of what we've been talking about.
Yeah, I guess just this isn't it's like an attempt to like um use control, basically. Like you're trying to um use ego against ego, right? Like, and that never works. And yeah, it's not the actual solution. When you try to control like that, you get blowback from it. It backfires. It doesn't even accomplish what you really want. And we're seeing that also. So, you know, it's not like the real solution. You might think like that would take too long or something or whatever. It's not possible, but we have to pursue the real solution because you might temporarily get some sort of concessions from healthcare companies because of that, because they feel, like they need to, but in the long term, it's not going to do anything and it's going to, it's just bad karma. So there's definitely a way to improve things. The only way to improve things is with love, and there's such a thing as, you know, as that. I don't know how to say that eloquently, but there we go.
Yeah.
I did want to point out something that I feel something about. It's just that we live in a nation, specifically Sage and I live in a nation where certain people are calling an assassinator a hero. And although he may or may not shift some roles or shift some things that can help thousands of people, at the end of the day, if we look at it in a healing perspective, we could see that the in the healing side that should not be condoned. Although we can understand that now he's going to go to jail and have like karma, um, calling him a hero just feels like, again, the core of the healing that Sage brought up, like the powerlessness. And that completely takes your power away by calling someone a hero by doing that, regardless of how villainized the other person was at the other side of the gun. And the same thing is reminded of me of like, we put a racist president in office, regardless of the good that he can do, that he may do to give more freedom to this nation. At the end of the day, he doesn't maintain 100% integrity. Just like the shooter, he didn't maintain 100% integrity when it came down to it. Even if there may be some good that comes out of it, you don't want to go down that path.
So I completely agree with you, but you've jogged something in my mind, and I almost feel like there is, and it's going to sound extreme, so please just bear with me for a second. And 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 again, the reason why I brought up that he served a purpose is that he has brought attention to the problem. The challenge is that people will call those kind of people heroes because in their imagination, they would have acted in that way. So there's definitely some level of relating inside of struggle and trauma bonding that's still prevalent after all these last 5 years of all the pain that humanity has gone through in the shifts from COVID, in being isolated, in the destabilization of economies. So we might not necessarily agree with somebody like Trump being elected, but he is the devil that people know. Versus Kamala Harris, who's not necessarily the devil that people really know. So, all of those kind of things just feel to me like the core of it is this relating inside or within the struggle.
Yeah, there's also another thing, like I've seen it in several areas of my life where people have commented that it just acts on like surface level thing. Like the fact that Trump gave um an interview about dreamers, the dreamers that are very old and not necessarily integrated in this country. And a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, it's right. Yes, it's right. But it's like he's right on like 1% of a problem. And so I think like people in a certain way stop at the surface level still of something, even though they know that they must go deeper. So there is a resistance, and that's why someone that shot someone can be called a hero in this day and times. It is because people stop at something that is insignificant, but they think is important. So there is a very deep imbalance on what actually matters, what the truth is, how the process works. And I think this is a very systemic, global, societal problem that we are touching on right now. And yes, relating to a struggle, yes, but I think it's time to overcome relating to the struggle. The more we say that, the more we see that the relating to the struggle doesn't really build relationships, but people are still clinging to that. And that's why what we're seeing right now feels so outdated. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. I think it was important.
Just one last little thing, and I think that's what we've been working towards and talking towards, is that people have forgotten how to actually relate to each other in relationship after the last 6 years. And we predicted it from the very beginning that there will need to be a new level of social intelligence as we come out of all of these cycles, and we're starting to see it come through.
Nadia?
No, whatever you guys have said is basically me repeating that because it seems from social media, a lot of people are numbed out to the point where they're making jokes and like saying, how can we hide him? How can we, help him out? And still relating to that trauma and even like joking like, oh, it took 3 days for the police to find a backpack of Monopoly money, so he's good. We don't have to worry about him. And it's just like at the end of the day, he's also representing you. And this is what how you wish to be represented. And this is how
It's
you
just
wish to go forward.
this is so cynical, and that's the reason why people are so surprised when they have like when they attract like bad situations. It's like they don't. There is a very big disconnect between what you are choosing, what you are choosing to consume, what you are choosing to say, and what is actually happening, and the imbalance is so present.
Yeah, and it's not a movie. Like people are taking it as like a movie. And this is real life. It's not like you're shooting in a TV scene.
Yeah. Any last things to say on that? No. Yeah, so we're just going to have a little bit of touchdown on a situation that is very complicated and has been going on for 12 years now, more than 12 years. And it's the situation of Syria. And things have moved in that space in the past week. And I would love for Sage to kind of summarize what is happening right now.
Yeah. Okay. So, the Syrian civil war has been just a very destructive war. It's the longest civil war of the century, I believe. It started in 2011. There were the Arab Spring uprisings against a lot of the authoritarian leaders in the Middle East, dictators. It started in Tunisia. And then, Syria's had been ruled by the Assad family for 50 years until Sunday, December 8th, when Assad, fled to Russia. And now he's in Moscow, under the protection of, the Russian government, which is insane. They've been his biggest supporter through all the years, right? So it's to me, like when I saw this news, I was amazed. I was so shocked because this thing has been going on forever. And then all of a sudden, this rebel group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or I guess we could call it HTS, an Islamic militant group, just less than 2 weeks, they go in and they are going all the way from the northwest of the country near Turkey down to Damascus. And Assad is gone, and it was incredible. And they kind of just seized on the fact that the two biggest supporters of Assad, Russia and Iran, were tied up with other things. Like Russia has chosen to invade Ukraine, and it's been a quagmire for them, and they could not support Assad anymore like they used to. They needed to withdraw people from Syria. And then Iran was trying to support Hamas and Hezbollah, in Gaza and Lebanon. So their supporters were tied up, and, HTS seized the opportunity. And now it's over. That era of Syria is over. And so now the big question is what's going to happen next. And in Syria, there's a little bit of a question about that. There's an interim prime minister. Um, they are flying the flag of that like HTS group and stuff. And they have like a Salafist ideology. It's like some sort of Sunni Islamic extremist ideology. They split off. They publicly split off from Al Qaeda, but they might still be connected to Al Qaeda. They got support from Islamic State when they started, but then they disavowed them and everything. So it seems to me like they're a very like opportunistic group. And but they're saying that they're gonna they say like all groups in the country, like Syria has a lot of religious minorities and stuff like that. They're like all minorities in the country and all groups should be treated fairly. Women shouldn't be told what they can wear and stuff and how they should be in public spaces. So they've made some of these statements, but we don't really know, like until things really get rolling, we won't really know what their intentions are. But now we're just looking at it and being like, how's it going to happen? And there are other rebel groups too, like the Syrian National Army that's backed by Turkey, and then the Syrian Democratic Forces that are backed by the US, and they're mainly Kurdish. So it's so interesting to see how it will play out because it seemed like things have been the same forever, and now they're suddenly all up in the air. So yeah, but it to me it still feels, even though there's uncertainty, it still feels like a huge victory for the Syrian people because the Assad regime was so just inhumanly cruel and just didn't care for the people one bit, you know. And so I don't know. It's an interesting time for
Yeah,
Syria.
thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah,
Hmm.
that was a good summary. I think it feels so good that it's over. It's so surprising that it's over, but so good because Bashar al-Assad, he just decimated his own citizens, um, used chemical armed forces on them. And yeah, it was not good. It was not good at all. And the Syrian crisis has been going on for so long, and it was another part of the immigration at first in Europe, um, in the 2010s. And so it displaced so many people. And culturally, like, it seems like any cultural richness that Syria had, which was a lot, was annihilated. So that brings up a question of what culturally diverse things HTS is talking about, because it was really so decimated that I don't know how it's going to come back to normal, but like maybe we're trying to just like go back to how it were and respect everybody, but we don't necessarily know their intention. Yes, Sage.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because the Bashar al-Assad government was like kind of kind of tolerant to minorities. They were a minority. They're part of the what is it? Alawite Muslim group, which is a branch of like the Shia Islam. But Sunni Muslims are like a big majority in the country.
Yeah.
But there's Shia Muslims, Alawite, there's Christians, like Orthodox Christians, there are Druze people, and then there are the Kurdish people who are an ethnic minority. So, you know, there are a lot of groups there. And the Assad government wasn't so like keen on suppressing them because the whole idea was you know, they were a minority group themselves. So,
Mhm.
but then when a Sunni Islamist group kind of takes the lead in Syria, you have to wonder if they're going to respect all communities. But they put out a statement saying that they would. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like a weird thing going on. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see if it's the same as the Taliban, because Taliban started relatively slow for Taliban, and then they're strengthening up their everything this year compared to last year. So we still have to see if they have ties with Al Qaeda, and what was their original ideology, because as we say in, I guess, 21st Ascension school, like the way a relationship started is a very important factor in the way it will go for the rest of your life. And I think since we're talking about relationship with like very complex national or um, ethnic groups, just like little groups inside of a nation. The real relationship started was still with Al Qaeda. So, you know, a little bit of a thing to frown upon. Um, Maybe not disastrous, not as disastrous as the Civil War, but we'll just have to see what they say, what they do, because it is a peculiar situation. But it is interesting to see how this just like went down. And I think some articles said that it was a show of how Russia like lost a hand in the Middle East and Africa this year. And really enough, it's like their biggest show of weakness, even though like the weakness should be on the front with Ukraine, but it really feels like their energy is just like, you can be everywhere all at once. Like you can have like three birthing businesses. And I think that's kind of the same with like where you act on soil. So yeah, it's an interesting situation. Peculiar way to finish the year as well, I would say.
So I think it's actually quite an interesting way to finish the year for one reason and one reason only. We're going into a period where transitions will be happening for at least the next few years. And let's be honest, I don't know that there's anybody in the world right now that's not saying we've just had enough of the crap. And yes, they are resorting to extreme means to highlight their message. But both of these stories just feel like people are truly standing up to tyranny.
Yeah. Any other insights, comments? No, nothing.
Well, they're standing up to tyranny in the best way that they know how, I guess is the thing.
It's true.
Yeah.
I guess HTS did serve, like, I feel like HTS did serve a huge purpose there. I'm not going to lie. Like, this is huge. Whatever their birthing is. So, yeah. It's just interesting to see. Uh, oh my God. Like, the decimation of the people, guys. What we heard through stories throughout Europe about it for the past 13 years, 14 years almost. Like I can tell like it was a lot. Like it needed something needed to change for sure.
You know what's crazy? Right before this as well, I met a lady. I had a pastor. I was talking to her, and this came up somehow. She had someone who rented a room from one of her houses in the past who was from Syria. And he was a refugee from Syria, and he told a story about what it was like there and the kind of tactics they used to like control and intimidate the populace. And it was like insane. And it's a cool sign from God. From God, because like right before this, somebody tells me that. That's insane. So yeah. Oh, Nadia, did you want to say anything about it?
I'm just really happy for them. Like it's been many, many, many years of torture for them. And knowing some Syrians that came from Syria and have family there, and they have to worry about their family because of the unsafe conditions. Now they're rebuilding, and now there's going to be a new generation that doesn't have to live through such war-torn mess.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because there was a whole generation of people that was born with the war. It was so freaking long. So yeah, a change. That's good. All right, guys. This is the end of our discussion for today. Thank you to everyone who's watching us from YouTube. If you enjoyed the discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment so we can do more of those. And remember, we have a few surprises for you in 2025, so stay tuned. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.